Hello, this is Benjamin from Modernized Startups. Today we'll be looking more in depth at step 3 in the process of building a business, which is creating a logo based on your target market. So at this point, you've already determined your target market, and developed a name that suits the business and its intentions. Now it's important that your logo appeals to and relates to your target market so that your image brings the attention of the people you will want to use your product or service. I'm going to show you guys an example of creating a logo on Adobe Illustrator. The example being of a logo I made and explained step by step how I built the logo based on the target market of the company. Now I'm going to open Adobe Illustrator. So here I started with the Modernized Startups. I spoke to the client. Now this won't necessarily relate to you if you are your own client, you're starting a business yourself. So what I did was spoke to the client. Here's an example of a list of helpful tidbits about the company itself. It's an engineering company. They work in 3D printing and design, and some ideas of what the client, and in your case you, would want to see in your logo. So how I started designing the logo was Modernized Startups. So that it's modernized and it's starting up. You want to quite directly with the name that you develop for the company, you want to build a logo that represents that well. Now, Modernized Startups, we're starting with a sans serif if we're going to be working with something modern. Now starting up is very entrepreneurial, and so I went with something such as an arrow to represent increasing sales, starting up, and going places, and the basic shape of a hexagon for gears, mechanical, and that's just how I went about starting a design. Now, these are just a few examples of the samples that I gave to the client, and now if none of these if you start developing, you realize none of these really suit you, you can always get outside perspective, talk to other people, see what they like about it, see what they're thinking of when they see the logo. And I'll show you guys the next step here is after showing the client, he gave me suggestions and I came up with this design. This is a 2D design and a 3D representation because this client in this particular example wanted to see what it would be like if it was a 3D printed design. Now these can always apply to you when you're developing your own logo. Now I showed the client this and he gave me a picture of what he thinks would be a finalized version, something interesting that he thought of when he was looking at my designs. And sometimes the client will do this, sometimes you will not always. It's a unique example of what's happening. But I'll tell you this, I took this into Adobe Illustrator, and this is what I came up with. I gave him samples of this to see how he would like. I gave different thicknesses of the lines to just to give him as many examples as possible. And the color scheme was based on what the business was about. For example, this was about um, mechanical engineering, 3D printing, and event planning. So I came up with a blue and a gray scheme.